Hi everyone, I'm Anna Kibrick. I am the school counseling intern here, and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit today about motivating unmotivated students. As we all know, it's a little bit more of a problem now in the middle school, and we want to kind of stop that and nip that in the bud before it goes all the way up to high school. So I'm going to give you some strategies to work with today about motivating these unmotivated students. Frederick Douglass once said that it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Unmotivated students, in most cases, are this way for two reasons. One, their parents enable them, or they lack self-esteem. Since we cannot control how their parents act and how their parents enable them, it's our jobs as student advocates to teach children how to work on their own motivation and their own self-esteem. So there are normally three different types of unmotivated students. Students who want to gain power, students who lack appropriate models, and then students who lack connectiveness. When a student is lacking a sense of power, it's that inner sense of self-power. So they're lacking of having the confidence to do what they feel like they need to do. They lack that confidence to believe in themselves, feeling that they can handle what's put before them, and all those different kinds of things. If a student is lacking a model, it's like a role model who's going to help them establish their own values, ideas, and different personal standards within themselves. When they're lacking a model, they don't really have a model or a person to sense out how they want to live their life, and they don't have a model to kind of give them those values and goals that they should be working towards. So also, when a student lacks connectiveness, it's that sense of belonging, really connecting and having that bond with one person or more. So if a student is lacking connectiveness, they're not being a part of something, they don't feel related to others, they often don't get involved in different group activities, and they kind of have a really hard time building relationships with either students or adults in the classroom. So when a student wants to gain power, they're often stubborn, bossy, they act helpless a lot, they also control aggression, or they'll have withdrawal, they react poorly to frustration, they avoid taking responsibility for themselves and instead blame others, and there are a few other symptoms that we can see when a student wants to gain that inner self-power and how they'll react in the classroom. So when a student does want to gain power, here are some strategies to help with self-empowerment. You can do the choose, decide, or pick method. When you're working with a student, they don't always see the connection, between what their choice is and how that is reacting or relating to somebody else. So when you tell them, if you choose to do this behavior, then this will be the consequence. They're being kind of forced to see, how I'm acting and how I'm reacting to certain things affect other people. If you use the phrase, please make a different choice, that's saying to them that, I'm being distracted by this. So you have the choice to make now a different choice. You have the choice to make a different option, make a better choice, if you will, for whatever behavior you're doing at the moment. You can also use freedom phrases, and these are things like, it's up to you, you decide, you can choose, you can pick, whether it's, you're not liking how a student's reacting and they now get to choose how they are going to act in a different manner, or you're giving them options of work to do, you give them the power of being able to choose what they actually want to do and work with. So the important thing with these is that it's not the severity of their consequences of their actions, it's just making sure that you're giving them different options every time, and don't give in to working with students who need help with their own inner sense of power. If a student is lacking a role model, they normally kind of waste time because they don't really know what to do. They're sloppy, they're usually not well organized, they often don't tell the truth because they don't know the difference between what's actually true and what's not. They often also have a difficult time deciding what to do because they don't have someone to show them the way. And there are some other different symptoms over here that you can read through when you have a chance. So when a student is lacking a model, here are some strategies that you can work with. Use the phrase next time. This way students know your expectations for when they're doing a certain activity, and they know that next time, this is the expectation that they have to follow. You can also use the phrase because. Teach them why what they're learning is important, why they're learning it. If they see the rationale, they're more likely then to understand why they need to do it. You could also use the see one, do one, teach one method, which is when you show students an example, then have them do the example, and then have them teach another student to make sure that they remember a little bit easier and it sits a little bit longer in their long-term memory. You can also use role models in the room, mentors and mentees. When you're bringing positive role models into the classroom, students are more likely to follow it. And of course, be consistent. say what you're going to do, and then actually do what you're going to say. When a student lacks connectiveness, and this is kind of where all of our hearts break a little bit more, because you see that they're not making those relationships that you'd hope for them to be making. So they're usually making a little effort to join in on group activities. They're not involved in out-of-school activities usually. They spend a lot of time by themselves. They don't really want to communicate with you as the teacher or with their students, or even people in the lunchroom, other staff members and stuff like that. They're shy, usually don't have a lot of friends. They're usually disliked by other students because those other students never got to feel that bond with them, and they're often uncomfortable about touch or being touched, or on the opposite side, could be very clingy. So when we're working with students who feel that need for connections, we want to make sure that we're linking interactions. Kind of force them to talk to each other, have more student work time, make time for students to actually work together and get to know each other. There's also the ask 3 before me method, which is when you tell a student that they are not allowed to ask you as a teacher any questions before they ask 3 other students for help. Once again, this kind of forcing interaction a little bit more, but if it gets the job done in the end, then it's okay. You can also reach out to students. I noticed that, today you're wearing red. You like to wear a lot of red. This in turn makes them think, they noticed something about me. They saw me. Another thing that you can do is use journals. Have students write daily in their journals, and then when you sit down to read it, do it non-judgmentally without correcting. Who cares if they spelled journal wrong? The fact is that they're opening up to someone, and that someone is now you. Another good thing to use, and always keep in mind, is actually use the student's name when you're talking to them. Good job in class today, Johnny, or Johnny, I really like how you've improved since the beginning of the school year. Using their name gives them a sense of ownership in whatever it is that you're complimenting them on, and it helps them build that bond of connection. What matters the most in classroom teaching, it's, of course, you have to follow the standards, and you have to get ready for park and all of these things, but you're not going to have any of that buy-in if there is no bond between that one student and that one teacher. When students behave better, they achieve more. When they achieve more, they then behave better. It's this endless cycle, but it's a positive result you're getting, not the current bad behaviors you're going to be getting at the moment. So, as we all know, when we're working with unmotivated students, it's very hard not to place the blame on yourself. So this is why it's very important as a school counselor that I tell you and make sure that, do the best that you can for your kids, but make sure you're also doing the best thing for you. So some self-care tips when you're working with your unmotivated students: make a be choice before you make a do choice. When you're working with things, a be choice is like you're purposely choosing how you're going to be in that moment. I don't want to be the bad teacher. Okay, I'm going to take a step aside, calm myself down, and then go back in before I decide to do something about the action or the situation at hand. You always want to make sure that you talk to yourself before you talk to the child. As I just said, you always kind of want to make sure, I don't want to take this personally. It's not about me. Then kind of bring back some emotions from your own childhood, oh, Johnny could be having a bad day today. Let's try and talk to Johnny and see why Johnny's having a bad day and lashing out at me, not just why because he doesn't like me. Another thing, of course, we want to make no assumptions, never kind of assume what's going on with a student, because that leads to conflict and the misunderstanding. Kind of, even if they're not opening up to you, you want to make sure that they know that at some point they will be able to trust you and do that. You also want to make sure that you always tell yourself, I'm not sure what's going on right here. I always have to keep an open mind and always make sure that understanding the student is my top priority when working with them. Some additional supports and resources: there's this really good podcast from the Cult of Pedagogy that is amazing on working with unmotivated students. There's also several articles linked on this PowerPoint that are amazing on working with students with unmotivated kind of backgrounds and behaviors in the moment. And one of the most important things that you can do, of course, is reach out to me as a school counselor, and I will gladly help you through this process of working with an unmotivated student. I'm always here for them. I'm always here for you as a fellow staff member. So thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy day today. I know it's kind of crazy to sit down and listen to this professional development on working with unmotivated students. As I said, I'm always here to whether just bounce ideas off of or confide in yourself. I'm always here. You know where my office is, and have a good day, everybody.